The battle for Maplewood Lane. I was halfway through a turkey sandwich, the kind with extra mayo and a side of peas, when I saw it. My restored 1960s Shasta camper being hauled off my property by a tow truck I hadn't called. No warning, no note, just deep ruts carved into my driveway. Standing there, clipboard in hand and a smirk that could curdle milk, was Evelyn Harper, president of the Maplewood Homeowners Association. She sipped coffee from a mug labeled Neighborhood Royalty, while directing the driver like she was staging a Broadway show. That camper wasn't just a weekend getaway. It was my father's final project, a piece of my heart on wheels. Evelyn didn't just tow a trailer, she towed a legacy. I knew right then this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a declaration of war. Maplewood, a tidy suburb just outside Springfield, Ohio, was the kind of place where every lawn looked like it had a personal stylist. Houses stood in neat rows, each with matching shutters and mailboxes that screamed conformity. But I, Tom Brennan, didn't live in Maplewood. My 5-acre plot sat just beyond its borders, a slice of freedom surrounded by woods and wildflowers. My land was my sanctuary, legally separate from the HOA's iron grip, a fact Evelyn either didn't grasp or chose to ignore. I'd never been one to stir the pot, but when Evelyn crossed my property line, she woke something in me. This wasn't just about a camper. It was about principle. The Shasta was more than metal and rivets. My dad and I spent 3 years restoring it after Mom passed. We sanded rust, stitched new curtains, and even kept the original fold-out table he'd carved his initials into. It was a time machine, holding memories of fishing trips and late-night stories. A month before the tow, Evelyn had marched up to my fence, her heels sinking into the grass, and declared the camper an aesthetic violation. I leaned on my shovel, planting tomatoes, and said, "Evelyn, my land's not in your HOA." She huffed, "It's too close. It lowers our property values." I pointed out the 30-foot buffer between my camper and her precious neighborhood. She stormed off, but I should have known she wasn't done. The day the camper vanished, I was at the hardware store buying cedar for a new deck. When I returned, all that remained were tire tracks and a sinking feeling. My neighbor, Carl, sent me a video from his doorbell camera. There was Evelyn, arms crossed, guiding the tow truck onto my land like she owned it. She even waved as the camper rolled away. My blood boiled, but I didn't charge to her doorstep. Dad always said, "Don't fight mad. Fight smart." So I called the sheriff. The deputy, barely old enough to shave, called it a civil matter. I showed him the video. He shrugged, said Evelyn claimed an easement. I knew better. Me deed was clear. This was theft, plain and simple. I pulled footage from a trail camera I'd set up for raccoons. It caught Evelyn orchestrating the tow, down to her smug nod as the winch tightened. Next, I drove to the county clerk's office. The clerk, a woman who'd seen every property dispute in Springfield, handed me a certified map. My land was mine, no easements, no HOA jurisdiction. Better yet, Maplewood's ornate entrance gate, 10 feet of wrought iron ego, encroached 6 feet onto my property. 6 illegal feet. I grinned. Evelyn had handed me a weapon. At the tow yard, the manager admitted Evelyn paid cash, claiming HOA authority. I showed him the map and the video. His face went white. "She said it was legal," he stammered. I demanded my camper back, no fees. He agreed, but said it'd take a day. That night, my cousin Ray pulled up in his beat-up F-150. "Heard what happened?" he said, eyeing the gate across the road. "That thing's on your land, ain't it?" I nodded. Ray smirked. "Got my old tow rig in the shed. Pulled a tractor out of mud last summer." I didn't say much, but the gears in my head were turning. The plan was simple. If Evelyn could tow my camper from my land, I'd tow her gate off mine. But I wasn't reckless. I flagged the property line, posted "No trespassing" signs, and aimed a new camera at the gate. The next morning, the tow yard returned my camper, a little scratched but intact. Evelyn watched from her porch, arms folded. I called out, "Touch my property again, and I'm towing back." She scoffed. "You're threatening me?" I smiled. "Just stating facts." Ray and I prepped the tow rig, a beast of welded steel and raw power. We tested the winch, anchored it to concrete blocks, and waited for Sunday, when Maplewood's residents would be home to witness it. Word spread, and by dawn, neighbors gathered with coffee mugs, pretending to walk dogs. Some cheered quietly, others whispered about that troublemaker Brennan. Evelyn had been spinning tales, calling me a menace. I didn't care. I had proof. At 8 a.m., Ray revved the rig. I hooked the winch to the gate's base. The crowd grew. Evelyn burst from her house in a bathrobe, screaming, "Stop! That's HOA property." I pointed to the flags. "It's on my land, Evelyn. My gate now." The winch groaned, metal creaked, and the gate's post tilted. With a crack, it tore free, crashing onto my grass. The crowd gasped. Evelyn looked like she'd been slapped. "You're going to jail?" she shrieked. I shrugged. "Call the sheriff." I did. Deputy Malone arrived, a veteran who'd dealt with Evelyn's complaints before. I handed him the map, the clerk's letter, and a USB with the tow footage. He measured the gate's position, nodded, and turned to Evelyn. "Ma'am, this gate's on his land. He's within his rights." Evelyn sputtered. "He needs a permit." Malone sighed. "It's his property. He can remove obstructions." The crowd murmured. A few clapped. Evelyn stormed off, muttering about lawyers. She didn't quit. By Monday, flyers appeared on every mailbox, accusing me of vandalism and threatening community harmony. She hired a zoning consultant, a slick guy named Victor Klein, who hinted at reclassifying my land. I showed him the map and warned, "Cross my line, and my lawyer's next." He left quickly. Then Evelyn filed a police report, claiming I'd threatened her with heavy machinery. Deputy Malone came by, rolling his eyes. I showed him new footage, Evelyn sneaking onto my land at night, trying to cut down my signs. He shook his head. "She's digging her own grave." I took the fight public. The Springfield Gazette ran a story. HOA oversteps, neighbor fights back. The drone footage of the gate's fall went viral locally. Residents shared their own Evelyn horror stories finds for unapproved flower pots, threats over kids' chalk drawings. A petition to oust her gained traction. When Malone caught her trespassing again, she was arrested for a false report and property violation. The HOA board called an emergency vote. Evelyn was removed, 89% in favor. Her house hit the market days later. With Evelyn gone, I fixed the camper. Ray and I polished scratches, replaced